behind the razor wire of the ACI, deadly mistakes are teaching life-saving lessons. The inmate stories are difficult but important to hear. Eyewitness News reporter Walt Buteau has details in this morning's Street Story.
One of the faces behind a drunken Route 95 head-on collision.
Really, the only person that comes to see me is my mom.
Face to face with Warwick students and their choices. Good decisions about speeding and alcohol, and you pass the Zero Fatality program.
Or you can fail it and end up in the grave, dead.
Converse lost his son John in a drunken driving crash in Barrington.
We're in a hospital.
Kathy Andriozzi's daughter survived after she was hit by a drunken driver, but she's been in a wheelchair since '03.
They can forever change their life. And for what? For a few hours of fun? You know, swap that off with a lifetime of pain and loss. And, if you do the math, it's just not worth it.
This was not what I had planned for my life. I wanted just what you guys want. I wanted to go to college.
Brandy Graff is serving 10 years for a deadly DUI that killed 2 when she was 18.
Those people are never, ever going to come back. Their family is traumatized.
Students cried as they heard Graff.
Intoxicated!
Graff cried as she heard Converse.
You do not want that. And I do not want that for you.
Ryan Wright's been locked up longer than some of these tollgate students have been alive. He was 16 when a North Smithfield drinking party led to a friend of his firing a deadly gunshot. But whether it's violence, DUI, road rage.
And they made a monster out of me, and that's what they do to you. They don't care what you've done before, and you deserve it.
The convicted tell the innocent it's about split-second decisions that can haunt a lifetime.
Somebody to take the courage to stand up and say, we're not going to do that. We got to be better than these kids, and that's the problem. A lot of kids don't have the courage to just do that.
Thank you.
Over the past 2 years, 26 of the state's 39 towns have lost teens to car crashes. The goal here is to change that stat.
Thank you.
For the Rhode Show, Walt Buteau, Eyewitness News.
All right, joining us now to talk about the Zero Fatality program is Jonathan Converse's father, Dan Converse. Good morning, Dan. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
I'm from Barrington. I was born and raised there. I drive on Soames Road every day past where your son passed away.
Well, New Meadow.
On New Meadow Road, rather,
New
right.
Meadow Road,
Talk about what your message is here, because it's so personal for you.
The message I try to relay to high school students. I've done a lot of speaking at a number of high schools this spring, and at the ZFP program at the ACI is basically the fact that no one's immune to this happening. I don't care what your position is in life or what your parents may do, it's not an issue of good kids or bad kids, or good parenting or bad parenting. It's an issue of the lack of invincibility, that these kids are not that nobody's invincible, and that nobody's immune to this happening. And it's just a sort of a reality check for them that to these young people as well as adults. I really like speaking to adults. Just to let them know that, not in a million years does my son die in an alcohol-related car crash. He was a great kid. Not in a million years does that happen. But the fact of the matter is, I'm sitting here right now and going to the prison, right after this to discuss the fact that, yes, it did happen. And the fact of the matter is that it can happen to anybody, and it's a tragedy that should not be occurring.
Tell us, for the people who don't know your story, tell us about Jonathan. I know that he was involved in this accident. He wasn't wearing his seatbelt.
No, he wasn't.
Tell us a little bit about what happened.
Well, it's an incident that could have been avoided, prevented at any time by a number of different people, including my son. It's once again, it's all about choices. It's all about that when they started coming up with whatever their plans were that night during school that day, to the young man that purchased the alcohol, to the quote-unquote adult that served the alcohol or sold it to this young man, and then the distribution of it, and 4 16-year-old boys getting their hands on some alcohol, which John knew we didn't condone. And he didn't wear a seatbelt, which he knew we always begged him to do. And they actually had a designated driver that night till about 10:30. and John was supposed to be home at 11. There wasn't any school the next day, so I gave him his weekend curfew. And they ended up back at their car, and 4 16-year-old boys with a belly full of beer and a car in front of them, let's do one more lap around town. So, you know, and my feeling is that alcohol, as I said, it could have been stopped at any time by any person if they weren't under the influence of alcohol and made the right choice and said this isn't a good idea.
Well, I'll tell you what, Dan, we really appreciate you being here and telling your story and for sharing a little bit about this program. And if you're interested in more information about the Zero Fatality Project, all you have to do is head to our website. It's foxprovidence.com.